What's spicy, intensely flavorful, and warms you up during cold winters? Bengali style chicken curry. Hey, it's Hum, and welcome to a new episode of Hum Made, where I teach you how to cook authentic Bangladeshi recipes at home. If you haven't figured it out by now, onion is a staple ingredient in Bangladeshi cuisine. It's the foundation for our curry. So for this recipe, I'm peeling and dicing 2 medium-sized yellow onions. Dice it up fine so it'll be easier to cook down later. I find that yellow onions add a ton of flavor and additional sweetness to balance out the curry's spice. Next up is potatoes. I'm using 3 to 4 Yukon Gold potatoes as our starch for the curry. I personally like Yukon Gold. They're easy to peel and they cook relatively quickly, but you can use whatever spuds you want. The less starchy, the better, I find. Just make sure to cut them into manageable pieces, not too big or small. Continuing with our mise en place, let's prep some garlic. Go ahead and smash and peel 4 to 6 cloves. You don't want to chop them super fine as they'll cook down in the curry, so a rough chop is okay. Once you have that prepped, just go ahead and set that to the side. For our heat component, we're slicing in half 46 green bird's eye chilies. Now, these are super spicy, so you want to be extra careful. I happen to like my curry spicy, but you can add less if you'd like. I won't judge you. Okay, maybe a little. Next up is cilantro, everyone's favorite soap-flavored garnish. I happen to like cilantro a lot, but if you think it tastes like soap, leave it out and sub it in with another herb like parsley or dill. Just chop it up into a bunch and set aside to garnish for later. For the protein, I had my local butcher deskin and cut up a whole chicken into 8 to 10 pieces with the bone in. You want to leave the bones in, it's packed with flavor. For the curry spice, it's a straightforward mix. We start with our dry ingredients first, 3 to 4 green cardamom pods and 2 pieces of dried bay leaves. For the ground spices, we're using half a tablespoon of turmeric powder, 1 tablespoon of coriander powder, 1 tablespoon of cumin powder, 1 tablespoon of red chili powder, and finally 1 tablespoon of curry powder. I like using a Dutch oven for curries as it's easy to clean up and I'm a big fan of one-pot meals. Heat your Dutch oven on medium-high heat and add in 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Toss in the bay leaves and cardamom pods and temper lightly to extract additional flavors and release any essential oils. This would have been easier if I used a spoon for tossing in the cardamom instead of my fingers, but here we are. Go ahead and give that a quick stir for about 30 seconds or until fragrant. Add in the minced garlic next and give that a stir for an additional minute. After that, toss in the chopped onions. We really want to cook this down, so this will take some time. After about 5 minutes, your onions should start to caramelize and turn translucent. If they start sticking to the bottom, feel free to add in a splash of water. I added 1/4 cup and let that simmer for 8 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes in, this is what your onion should look like. A rich, dark brown color with a jammy-like consistency after all the sugars have been released. After the onions have fully cooked for 15 minutes, let's go ahead and add in the spices. Toss in the curry powder, the chili powder, the cumin powder, the coriander powder, I'm saying powder a lot, and turmeric. And you want to just cook down the rawness of the spices for an additional 5 to 10 minutes. It's really easy to burn spices, especially in powder form, so you want to keep an eye on the heat and lower it if you have to. So about 20 minutes in, the fat should have separated from the onion jam. And this is what your curry base should look like, a savory and spicy onion paste. Quick side note, you can totally jar this and eat it as is. So let's go ahead and toss in the chicken next. Stir vigorously to make sure that the curry paste covers every piece of the chicken. You want to get the curry paste in all the nooks and crannies. Let that cook on medium-high heat with the lid partially open for at least 15 minutes or once the chicken is halfway cooked through. You'll know as the protein will turn pale in color. Alright, so about 20 minutes in, this is what your chicken should look like as the chicken releases most of its moisture and adds additional flavor to the curry. You'll want to check for seasoning as we add in more liquid in stages. My rule of thumb is to always add salt after you add in more liquid, so I went ahead and added in 2 big pinches of salt to taste. Toss in the potatoes at the last stage of the curry so they don't turn into mush. Give that a good stir and be sure to coat the potatoes with the curry. They should take about 20 minutes to cook through or less, depending on how small you cut them. I'm adding in 2 cups of water to the curry and letting it simmer for an additional 20 minutes. Turn down the heat and let it cook slow and low. You'll start to see the fat separates from the liquid and rise up. That's a good thing. It's packed with a ton of flavors, so make sure you keep that. Just let it do its thing. Give the curry a thorough stir occasionally to make sure that the potatoes or chicken don't stick to the bottom and that everything is mixed well. I like adding in the chilies last so they don't disintegrate into the curry and they added a bit of bite. So to check the doneness of the potatoes, grab a fork and give them a gentle poke. If you get any resistance at all, it needs a little bit more time. If it glides through easily, then they're done and you're ready to garnish and start plating. Turn off the heat and toss in your chopped cilantro. Give that a final stir and mix thoroughly. Let the curry rest for at least 10 minutes, and after that, you're ready to plate. So what makes this dish so great is how much flavor is jam-packed into it and how easy it is to make. It's definitely a weekend meal that you can share with friends and family. I tried to make the plating sequence here a bit more cinematic, but that one rogue chicken piece just decided to roll over the plate for my spoon, and I only had one take, so that's that. This dish pairs well with a bed of basmati rice or any long grain rice you have available, as the rice soaks up the curry sauce really nicely. Or you can also pair this with any traditional Indian flatbread like naan or roti. Cue the up-close B-roll shot. You know I had to add this. This was the first meal that I cooked all day, and this episode took way too long to shoot, so I scarfed down this plate off camera. Here you see me practicing some restraint with one bite, but let's be honest. It was delicious. It's spicy, but not unbearable, savory, and the curry balances out everything with the sauce coating the rice and potatoes. It's a perfect winter meal. And that's it, Bengali style chicken curry. I really hope you make this dish at home. Let me know in the comments how it turned out. I'll continue to post more videos weekly, so if you like what you see, consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Homemade.